Hi guys. So you're going to need a yoga block. So this is something that I would normally do after foam rolling for the lats and the upper thoracic. We're gonna do a little bit of some shoulder exercises. So I'm gonna move my screen down to the ground. So let's talk about your breath first. So understanding that your breath is tied into your rib cage and your diaphragm. And so you have to feel and know that when you inhale and exhale out of the diaphragm and the belly, how when your rib cage expands, that you're essentially kind of just continuing to stretch pizza dough or bread dough, right? But if you're constantly just shallow breathing all the time, you're just compounding shortness in the rib cage. And so then that's just going to create shortness everywhere else throughout our trunk. And we're not going to be able to create that flexibility and length that we desire, right? And that's going to lead to injury and limitations. So after foam rolling the lats, foam rolling the upper back, going into some shoulder work. So knowing that your shoulder is one joint that is designed to go into 360 degrees, knowing that there is internal rotation and external, knowing that there is shoulder flexion, shoulder extension, and then the shoulder abduction and adduction. So those are the different angles that the shoulder moves. And understanding that there's a time and place when the shoulder should go into flexion, retraction, elevation, where the scapula can rise and lower. So understanding that your shoulder blades are attached in the back by rotator cuff muscles like spider webs. So there's no real big long muscle fibers that hold our scapula in place. It's just delicately held there by those rotator cuff muscles. So understanding a little bit of how the setup is in the back, these are exercises that we can do. So the first one, laying on your stomach, I'm going to put my left forearm or my left elbow kind of in a 90 degree. Let me turn my screen down just a hair. There, now you can see my block. Focusing on laying down and tying in with your breath, making a 90. Turn face this way. All right. Once you find your setup, with your shoulder laying on your block like this is already going to force and put the shoulder into a little bit of some external rotation. So it's a little bit easier when you're down on the ground, your shoulder's a little bit more in internal rotation. So with a little bit of the elevation, it puts it a little bit more into a retracted state, which is the purpose of the block. Now, first exercise, I call this a handcuff. So I'm going to have my left hand in front. I'm going to start with a thumb up grip, eyes just looking down. I'm going to inhale, expand my rib cage. And as I lift up, I'm going to go into shoulder flexion. Now my benchmark as I come into abduction out to the side is to A, clear my block, swing it around to the back. So here's my retraction. And then I'm going to turn it down and put the hand behind my back. And then I'm going to come and lift it back up, bring it out to the side, around and back down. So go ahead and let's do about 3 to 4 now that you're starting to kind of see the range of motion. So you want to allow the shoulder to protract, retract, internally rotate, externally rotate, and just kind of fish and find as you're moving with your breath. Where's that weakness? Where's that sweet spot? Where's that limitation? And maybe it's starting to take a little bit longer breath or longer exhale, or maybe it's using an opposite hand to kind of help keep that shoulder pulled back. Maybe it's going a little bit slower. Maybe it's trying to reach a little bit longer as you go into the handcuff position. So I'm only going to do my left side for time purposes, but this is an exercise where usually you can do about 2 sets, 6 reps each. But the importance is just really tying it in with your breath, knowing every time that you exhale and go into these different positions, that's what's going to stretch the fascia in your rib cage into these shoulder muscles and release the Golgi tendons and help tie that in with your breath, because we get so short, tight all the time in front pushing motions. Exercise 2 is called a, what do I call this? External rotation. So my left arm is going to be 90 degrees, forearm resting on block. And all I'm doing is just going into a little bit more external rotation. So for some, your forearm may not lift very high. And if that's you, then of course you're a little bit more on the ground and maybe you can be more here, okay? But again, the block sets you up already into external rotation. So for sure, stopping before any impingement, you never want any sharp pain and you never want to force the range of motion, but it's really imperative that you're just going slow and controlled and you're just tying it in with your breath, exhaling till you reach that end point. Again, 2 sets, about 6 reps, okay? Exercise 3 is called a child's pose with a Y reach. So let's show 2 different positions. So first one, we've kind of done this a lot of times with child's pose. So I like to use a roller a little bit to start. So you can be on your heels or you can be up, but either way, as you inhale to prepare and you're exhaling, sliding that hand forward, your butt is pushing back. So that roller is there to help assist in lengthening the lats. Ideally, you want to start maybe with a palm down grip, but start to turn to a thumb up, or maybe to a palm up grip, right? But either way, as we're doing that and tying it in with your breath, we're focusing on lengthening lat. We're focusing on scapula elevation. So you want to let the scapula rise. You want to allow shoulder to come to ear, but we're just not tensing the traps. And then if you can turn the palm up, that's fantastic. But this is how we can start to get into external rotation of the shoulder. So pausing for a second on that thought. If when doing the shoulder mobility test, putting hands behind back, top hand was tight, was difficult, you couldn't get that hand up very high, this is the exercise that you need to do in order to get that lat lengthened and to get the external rotation in that upper shoulder. So now for the exercise, using your yoga block, this is where you can use that as your benchmark. So find where your furthest length is, scapula elevated, shoulder externally rotated. I like a thumb up grip, and I'm gonna inhale, prepare, exhale, lift up into a Y, and then lower right back down. So 2 sets, about 6 reps, tying it with your breath. I also call these scaptions sometimes in class. This is where sometimes I'll start with my hands by my side and I'll come up leading with a thumb up grip, kind of like I'm making the letter V or the letter Y. But either way, just stopping before any shoulder impingement. Again, if you need to have the elbow a little bit bent, or maybe bring it more out at an angle where it's doable for you, you kind of have to find that radius. Where's that sweet spot where you have success on moving with the shoulder? Stop me at any point if you have questions, Miss Deidre. Exercise 4 is retraction pullbacks. All right, so in a seated up position, you don't need a block with the hand in front, thumb up grip. Now the shoulder's designed to go forward and slide back, right? So we need to have mobility, flexibility to be able to slide and glide like this. You need the shoulder girdle to move. We can't stay 99.9% of the time shoulders back, chest up, because then we get short tight back there, right? So knowing how to slide and glide with success, but keeping the shoulder girdle, keeping the glenohumeral joint over and pull back behind the capsule so there's no impingement here, and be able to pull back, row, rotate, reach and let it go long, slide it back, pull, rotate back to center, release back to shoulder flexion. So again, I'm in my lengthened state. I pull it back, step 1, row, step 2, rotate trunk, step 3, externally rotate the forearm, and then reach it on out. So there's a lot going with this one. So if you can start to dissect and connect the shoulder girdle sliding forward and back, you can feel the rhomboids holding retraction. You can feel the trunk rotating. You can feel the external retraction, rotation with the forearm, and you can allow through rotation to slide the shoulder girdle. Again, it's a very detailed process, knowing that we're not letting that shoulder internally rotate, always keeping it pulled back, right? So this is one where it's so easy to just kind of go through the range of motion of things, but really being able to connect here to here. So that's why like plank rows are so helpful, but sometimes we lose sight of how to stabilize in the shoulder doing these things, and we just easily go into internal. This is also how you can get successful with push-ups without overuse injury. Those are the two big ones that come to my mind. And then the last one is scaption elevation circumduction. So this is where you can either be seated. I'm going to be on my knees. Let's see, raise that screen up just a hair so you can see. No block needed. So starting with your hand by your side, shoulder pull back, you're going to inhale, lead with the thumb. Might have to creep down for a second. Come on up, ideally elbow to ear. So here's the elevation of my scapula. Now think backstroke. Now, as soon as I reach my furthest point, I'm going to turn my palm the other way and start to circle around and stop. So noticing now my palm, base of my palm is facing you. And then I reverse the function. So then I go back, slide it up. Here's my scapula elevation. Start to turn. Now my thumb is up to come down. So this is where you were working one arm at a time. And then another time I'll show you how you can do some of these with a broom pole. I know Carolyn has asked about that, and she's done that a lot of times. But again, your shoulder is designed to know how to go into circumduction, but now tying in internal, external rotation and elevation, depression, flexion, extension. And that are my those are five exercises to work and assess left and right side. So again, we addressed the arm that was tighter at the top on your shoulder mobility test. That's how we can get the length. And then the hand that is weaker at the bottom, that would be a lot of external rotation as well. We're tighter in the chest and through the pec. So foam rolling through here, and then maybe working on laying face down on your stomach and doing your externals would get that goal through there. 8:55.